Let's start Jared Carnison, head of global social media at Adobe. We've got Rama Vasan, head of North America business marketing at TikTok, who also was on a panel or on a jury this year. We have Jen Wilson, chief marketing officer at Lowe's, and Marissa Jarrett, executive vice president and chief marketing and sustainability officer from 7-Eleven. We're all here today to talk about the ways that brands show up and how the world is evolving, which is really driven by the rise of the creator economy. I'm sure that you've heard all about creators the past few days here at Cannes. It's a very hot topic, and I'm sure you've walked past a lot of creators and influencers as you've been roaming around the Croisette. We are currently in a landscape in marketing and advertising where attention needs to be really earned rather than bought. And brands aren't just simply broadcasting messages anymore, right? They are being welcomed into culture by the very people who are shaping it. And it's important for us to spend some time talking about this. To kick things off, I want to start by asking all of you to tell us in one word or phrase, how would you describe the way that creators and cultural icons have changed your brand or business strategy?
So I'm incredibly long-winded, so I don't know if I'll be able to do it in a word or a phrase, so you'll have to bear with me. I think creators and cultural icons have always been incredibly important to Adobe and been part of our core business, given the nature of our work, empowering creativity. But now more and more, we're seeing that rise up in the industry at large. Creators, icons are fueling culture, they are driving brand preference, and they are the unauthorized voice of the brand for a lot of people. And so, we tend to say that culture is made in the comment section, or co-created in the comment section, post by post, story by story.
I love that. Rama, how about you?
So, being at TikTok, we talk a lot about how creators are the lifeblood of our platform. And I think the phrase I would use, excuse me, is that creators are turning campaigns into conversations. And it's all about how they're enabling brands to connect with communities authentically in a way that's relevant to both the brand and true to the brand's DNA, but also true to what the communities are looking for in a very authentic manner.
Jen.
We think about creators as the new trust infrastructure. And so similar to the conversation around brand trust and brand preference, we're trying to, make sure that there's a connection there that feels very authentic. So trust is the word.
Yeah, I'd plus one. Oops, sorry, very loud. I'd plus one what everyone said and maybe add to it. I think of the word oxygen, and oxygen for my team. Because working with creators really helps accelerate and bring oxygen into the system. It gives them new ideas, new ways of thinking about things. It's fun. So there's an added benefit, too, for the team from a morale, a motivation, pushing the limits, pushing the envelope that we really value.
I love that so much. I think all very important points. Let's start by talking about culture and real-time relevance. I think something that a lot of brands have had to face is reaction to things happening in culture or people talking about their brand, right? So let's talk a little bit about how we can chase ways to stay relevant as a brand and real. Rama, let's start with you. TikTok really is a place where cultural conversations are happening in real time, and that has given a voice to so many people. Let's talk about a particular moment that comes to mind where a brand tapped into it that really felt authentic.
I feel like I should be dancing right now.
I told them all there would be a choreographed number in between this panel, but no one's learned the steps but me. I'm sorry to disappoint everyone.
That would have been a real-time reaction, like real-time culture. There's so many examples, but if I had to pick one, there's one that I would probably tie to our annual trend report. We call it Brand Chem or Brand Chemistry. And it's about how brands are building chemistry with their communities in authentic time, like tied around culture. Hyundai Canada tapped into an amazing creator called Engineezy. And Engineezy is known for science-based content and how he leverages science in authentic ways to demystify things. And he used a bubble machine to bring the car's benefits to life. And that was just so brilliant. And Hyundai totally leaned into that It was about the product, but it wasn't about the product, and it had amazing results. So that's one example.
I love that. Great example. Jared, I think one of the things that sometimes prevents people from going all in on social is that, particularly in culturally relevant moments, and as you said, when creators sometimes are unauthorized in the way they are talking about your brands, finding success with creators in social can require risk. So can you talk about a time that you, as a brand, took a risk and it paid off?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's a lot of fear given, trust is earned in drops and lost in buckets, as they say. But I think there's something really remarkable about an unexpected partnership. So we partnered with this amazing creator by the name of Luke Holloway. He's affectionately called Lukey on the socials. And what he does is he takes these really robust Tinder conversations and he turns them into musical comedy gold, which is amazing. And upon discovering this, we reached out and we said, hey, could you take some really terrible ads or really strange ads and turn them into this musical comedy gold with the payoff that they could look a little better with Adobe Express. And it was such an incredible set of feedback we got in the comments. It was like, I can't believe this is an ad. If all ads were like this, I'd watch it every day. A lot of get that bag, Luke, which we've come to expect now on comments. But it's led to a more robust content franchise. I think we're probably up to about 3 songs with Lukey, and I'm hoping to get to a full album by the end of the year.
It's amazing. I love it. Jen, I think you talked a little bit about trust, and I think that one of the things that comes from trust, or that we need to foster trust, is to build authenticity, right? And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how Lowe's is building relevance with cultural moments without feeling forced.
A couple of examples. I'll start last year. We are, our brand position is all around helpfulness. So we've got this ambition of being the most helpful brand in home improvement. And we brought Lionel Messi on as we were trying to expand into audiences, especially Latino audiences. And we had a Copa America moment, and we thought, well, if we took the most assistive soccer player in the world and paired it with what we want to be, right, the most assistive home improvement retailer in the world, and created a moment during Copa America, which is one of the most watched tournaments. And then we gave our loyalty members 10 times the points every time that he got an assist. And so there were sort of these real life moments that we were able to activate on with new audiences. And as we know, Lionel Messi, not just a sports frenzy and personality, but also a major influencer as well. But fast forward to this year, where we've launched our creator network just last week. And that's, for us, really a platform to be able to grow with younger audiences. The average homeowner is not purchasing a home until their mid-30s to late 30s now. And we just simply can't wait to create these connections with consumers until they're in the market to start thinking about the home. And Gen Alpha is a particularly interesting segment for us because we can make kind of a connection with building and the future of builders and DIYers at that age. And we really want children to be able to say to mom and dad on a Saturday, take me to Lowe's. I want to go to Lowe's. And so as a part of our launch of the Creator Network, we partnered with Mr. Beast, who obviously we know is the #1 creator in the world, but also has a great connection with Gen Alpha and that audience. And so we're helping to build the city for the Beast 2 games. He is got his own storefront on Lowe's.com where he's curated obstacle courses that kids can build with their parents all summer long. And then we intend to bring these moments into our store environment as well. So we offer kids workshops one Saturday out of the month. And we want to take this, creator economy, but ground it in real life as well. So one example. A couple examples, actually.
I love that. There's some really great examples. I think it just points to the point that when you partner with someone whose relevance matches your brand values, right? Your values match up. Really, that's where the magic happens. And it sounds like you guys have nailed that at Lowe's. Marissa, you've tapped into niche fandoms. I think that it's really interesting for us to think about the expansion of Creator to also be inclusive of fandoms, because communities coming together can rise and really elevate a lot of the work. Those fandoms have ranged from gaming to car culture. What's your approach to showing up in those spaces without co-opting them?
Well, it comes back to a word you just mentioned, which is values. We've rather than look at, is a partner or a fandom or a potential collaborator or creator, are they the right kind of affinity with our audience, or do they, have a similar kind of brand purpose? We actually just look at values. So we understand what the brand values are. We also know what our customers' values are, and we match those with values of partners. And when we do that, it allows us to activate in a different way. So we're able to target, for example, car culture or car fans, which, let's be honest, represent less than 1% of the general population. But the values that they're expressing, creativity, in a lot of cases, do it yourself, those reflect also values of our customers, being self-made, being kind of an independent spirit. And so what happens is we're able to activate very deeply with that particular niche and build deep emotional engagement, but it resonates much more broadly in a mass way to people who really don't care about cars, but they see themselves in the work, and it builds that connection with 7-Eleven.
I think that when a large brand cares about a small community, it just goes to show that the brand is really listening and paying attention and wanting to boost the community, which I think is great. Let's transition to talking about long-term creator partnerships and the benefits. I think the creator economy is not new. It's been around for a while. As it matures, we're really seeing this shift from transactional one-off moments and partnerships to true partnerships that are providing value for both the creator and the brand. Jen, I'd love to start with you. I think, traditionally brands have used these affiliate programs as an economic incentive, focusing on those short-term conversions. And can you talk a little bit about how that's changed and what Lowe's is doing in this space to drive valuable creator partnerships that drive long-term engagement?
Yeah, I mean, I think about this as an ecosystem, and I think, you'll hear a lot of CMOs talk about this too, but to be able to deliver commission-based work is important. I mean, we want creators to be able to feed their families, but then monetizing that effort through a media network is another part that we're able to, sort of start that flywheel. And then importantly, at Lowe's, we're looking at how do we customize? So how do we think about collabs or different edits with some of our micro influencers and our macro influencers? And then how can we think about editorial content? One of our influencers or creators is the home edit, and so thinking about what could a future look like in programming with a Netflix or a Hulu, et cetera. So part of what we're doing and through research, through following, through understanding what matters to our customers is really trying to understand and cherry pick meaningful creators to help I'll just say create kind of tentpole moments throughout the year so that it feels like it's both authentic but also a flywheel. And then finally, we're really trying to crack the code on how to measure influence to store sales. I think that's a big one that is hard for a retailer to fully get their arms wrapped around because it not only is beneficial for your macro business plan, but it's also beneficial to the creator, and it's going to make them a whole lot stickier if they can get the credit for the sale that's happening in store. And so we're on a mission to try to help crack that code. I think retailers who do that first will have a stickier relationship with creators.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you spoke about creating these tentpole moments with these creators really resonates after spending 3 days locked in a room judging the social and creator category this week. We had a lot of conversations as a jury about the importance of creators being pulled through, not just being a one-off or a separate piece of what you're activating, and creating moments that start to elevate the creator as well as the brand, because brands really have the opportunity to connect a lot of dots, whereas creators, as running their own businesses, sometimes can't find those ins. And so making those connections is really important, and I think goes back to what you were saying before about building trust with the creator, which translates to the community. It's really great. Marissa, let's talk a little bit about creator partnerships. Oftentimes they serve a larger purpose than just content creation, right? How can these collaborations help brands become a part of that cultural moment, and what impact can that alignment have on customer engagement?
Well, the trick is we're all trying to take a moment and turn it into momentum, and hopefully that momentum generates really great business results. Cars of 7-Eleven is a great example of that. At my company, I mentioned that that's a pretty niche audience on a relative basis, right, for Gen Pop. But we found that they were just such a dedicated part of our customer base. We leaned in, we started to activate with them. We started first with just supporting their desire to have a meetup in our parking lots so they could show off their cars and grab a cup of coffee. I mean, something very, very lo-fi. And over time, that's turned into a much more intentional integration of car culture into our creative campaigns. It's turned into activations that happen throughout the year, partnerships with creators. And what I would tell you is actually, Jen, we've started to measure exactly what the impact of these communities are on our business. And they are much, much, much more loyal customers to our business. Their trips to our stores, so their shopping frequency, the purchase size of their baskets, is much larger than just customers who don't express an interest in those fandoms. And so we're connecting it directly to the commercial outcomes, and that's helping us keep the thread going through and also coming up with new ideas on how to activate and then again drive that scale on the back end.
I love hearing that you're spending the time to really measure the effectiveness. I think that for so many years, social has been seen as this, and creators, influencers, has been seen as this like small add-on, or like, yeah, go ahead, go do that thing, but we'll figure it out later. We're not going to invest a ton in that. And I think we're seeing a huge shift, and particularly I think this year, in the real proof of the effectiveness for brands. Brahma, let's talk a little bit about what brands are doing this well on TikTok and what we can learn from them. Like, have you seen a shift in the engagement changing the ways that brands are interacting with these communities?
So I'll now plus one everything that's been said so far. And where we're seeing brands have the most success with creators and creator partnerships is when it's not transactional, but truly transformational. I'll give a couple of examples of that. So creators are renowned for content, but the truth is that they can actually inform product as well. Gap did this really well. There's a creator called Julia Hune who made content about, and a series about the hoodie that hoods, which I see a lot of nods, so people are familiar with. But Gap saw that and then actually partnered with her to create a hoodie that hoods. Like, they actually created a new product around that creator. So that's taking it to the next level, right? Another example is Rothy's shoe brand, footwear brand. And you said this earlier, Bridget, it's all about the brands that are really listening. And you said, Jared, about how the comment section is the new focus group. They were looking at the creators and the comment section of the creators, and they were seeing this trend of how everyone was asking for the flip-flop to come back. And they brought back a product that was taken off market, and they're seeing incredible success from it. So again, it's not just a tactical add-on to fulfill content for a media plan, but it's really thinking of them as almost business partners, because the communities they serve, no matter how niche, provide a lot of valuable insight that can inform your brand strategy and your business strategy.
I love those examples. They're both two of my favorites. Jared, let's talk a little bit about how you tailor your creator strategy across such a diverse business that you have at Adobe, and what keeps it cohesive while still being tailored for so many products that you have to be able to hit?
Yeah, so obviously it's a big job ensuring that everything is distinct, but I think, across the portfolio of products and brands that we manage in social, and it's everything in DME all the way through, our enterprise solutions. So the voices are very distinct. Each has its own distinct purpose. Each has its own distinct need state. But I think if you get the social voice right, the creative voice falls in line and your strategy falls in line. I think beyond the getting that voice right, I think cohesion is a really interesting concept in social when we see creative diversity actually driving the performance. And so I would say that diversity and distinct creative voices that line up to the brand vision and values is probably more critical than that cohesion with the master brand for us. I also wanted to touch on, we were talking about ROI of social. I think a lot of people tend to look at social as a top of funnel institution, if you will. But we've seen a remarkable success in actually taking social first assets and running them in performance media. So running them in demand progression, running them in demand conversion, and have successfully attributed that to in-quarter ARR. And that's when the lovely CMOs on the stage tend to open their checkbooks a little more for us folks in social, which is wonderful.
I love that. We have just a few minutes left, so I'd love to pose a follow-up question. Anybody feel free to jump in. What's the biggest misconception brands still have about creators today?
I mean, I can go first and follow on. I think a lot of brands, it gets very prescriptive. Like brands get very prescriptive with the creator, and often the content winds up coming out like it's branded content, and then you lose the authenticity and you lose what the magic is that makes that creator, drive the kind of engagement they drive. So in partnering with creators, just give them the space to be themselves and create the content that they know will work for your brand.
So important, I think, the process of briefing creators and keeping it really light and top level to allow them to bring their authentic selves and what they do. The reason why you're partnering with them in the first place, right, is because you love what they do and what they represent, and you feel like there's a fit with your brand. It's really important to kind of turn it over to them.
I'll jump in next. I think one of the misconceptions, too, is the notion that you have to kind of stay in your lane. If you're a certain type of creator, then you should be with certain types of brands. And I think what makes the creator economy so special is the zigging and zagging that happens. And we were talking yesterday about a mini toolbox that Lowe's sells that became the highest and I think we sold out in like 3 days at Black Friday, and we did it in every single color because it started catching on fire across the beauty industry. And women and girls were storing their makeup in it, and then suddenly it caught fire on TikTok and had 40 million views, and there you have it. And so now we're working with beauty influencers, and I think just to kind of stay in your lane and we're home improvement is a disservice, and I do think that that's one that we have to kind of help people break down.
I love that. I feel like that is the power of the creator and the creator community is listening and then activating on that listening and really kind of finding new and additional fandoms. Like, who would have thought that car culture would be something for 7-Eleven,
Hey, I'll just build on it. I think there's a little bit of an element of Moneyball. You guys know the book Moneyball, the whole concept. I think to really lean in on influencers, you have to have a mindset that some of them are just not going to work out, even with your best effort, and that's okay. Treat it like a business partnership. Who knows? Maybe in a couple of years, you'll be in a different brand, they'll be in a different space, and it could work out. So, but having that mindset of not everything is going to be 100%, and that's okay. How do you learn together and continue to support and help the community as business partners, I think is a really important one.
I'm happy to close out. I would say, and it ties to what everyone has said. And by the way, it looks like we rehearsed all of this. We literally are meeting for the first time today, so we're just organically really.
We've impressed ourselves.
But to build on what everyone has said so far, if I had to sum it up, creators are not just about social content; they're about full funnel influence. So it's really about thinking, what are your business objectives? And how can creators and platforms like TikTok take you from not just awareness and discovery, because the path to purchase doesn't really exist anymore, right? Like it's a loop. And what creators can do is really like help drive that conversion a lot faster because of the authenticity and the relevance that they have with communities. And to your point, it's not just about like upper funnel objectives. It's about true buying the car or like buying the cup of coffee or like investing in home improvement, whatever it might be, you can drive to those lower funnel outcomes with the right creator partnership and the right content that drives relevant with the communities.
To close us out, I think one of the things that sums up everything that we talked about today is that the creator economy, while evolving quickly, something at the heart that I think is really important to remember that is timeless is that it's about shared values and connection. And I think if we can bring those two things to the forefront of everything that we do as brands, we'll see the impact that you all are seeing today. Thank you so much to our panelists and to everyone who joined us today. Enjoy the rest of Cannes.
Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you.